is not a normal thing. That is actually supposed to be considered very unusual. But when it comes to Israel, well, they're infiltrated in every single nook and cranny of our government, which is why our government serves a foreign country, not the American people. Before I get to the details into this, which are incredibly embarrassing for our commander-in-chief, Cenk, your 2 cents.
Yeah, so first of all, they should make sure they clean up the Situation Room, because there's no way the Israelis didn't plant bugs there. The minute you allow them into any room, and former CIA agents have said this, they plant bugs. Because they're not our allies. They've stolen all of our secrets. They've taken $300 billion from us, and they drove us into this war, as you're going to see in this exact story. But as you're going through the story, I want you to think about 2 things, okay? Number one is, who leaked this to the New York Times, and what was their purpose? Because you're going to learn some things here, but then I want to explain to you why this story came out now and what the politics behind it is, because that's really important.
That is a great tease, and I agree with you. That is where the conversation should lie. We'll get to that in a minute, but let me give you the details. So the bulk of this piece focuses on a Situation Room meeting that took place on February 11th. Remember, Trump started the war on February 28th. So this is days before the war begins. The meeting in the Situation Room, again, included White House Chief of Staff Susie Wiles, Secretary of State Marco Rubio, Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth, CIA Director Ratcliffe, General Dan Kane, of the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and then you have the head of Mossad, David Barnea, who appeared on a screen from a remote location, and of course Benjamin Netanyahu was there as well. Now J.D. Vance apparently couldn't attend because he was in Azerbaijan and couldn't make it back in time for this Situation Room meeting. We'll get back to him in just a minute. Now, Netanyahu apparently gave some sort of presentation to convince Trump to go to war with Iran and bring an end to the Islamic regime. And here's how useful Israeli intelligence really is. You know how Israel always talks about, no, we are an incredibly important ally. We provide intel to the United States. What kind of intel do they provide to the United States? Is it the kind of intel that got us to invade Iraq in 2003? That kind of intel? Anyway, let's get to the details here. Netanyahu and his team outlined conditions they portrayed as pointing to near certain victory. Iran's ballistic missile program could be destroyed in a few weeks. The regime could be so weakened that it could not choke off the Strait of Hormuz. And the likelihood that Iran would land blows against U.S. interests in neighboring countries was assessed as minimal. Now you tell me, should it have been assessed as minimal? Let me continue. When others in the room asked the prime minister about possible risks in the operation, Netanyahu said, in his view, the risks of inaction were greater than the risks of action. He argued that the price of action would only grow if they delayed striking and allowed Iran more time to accelerate its missile production and create a shield of immunity around its nuclear program. So Netanyahu's there in the Situation Room, filling our moronic president's head full of lies, okay, buttering him up, propping him up as some sort of hero. Oh, if you do this, oh, you're gonna be celebrated. You're such a hero. You know how Trump is, right? An egomaniac. So easy to stroke that pathetic ego of his. And that's exactly what Netanyahu did. Easy. If the Democrats were smart, they would have used the same tactics. But they're not smart. They're total dullards, a pathetic opposition to a fascist president. But nonetheless, later intelligence officials broke down Netanyahu's claims and objectives. The officials assessed that decapitation or slaughtering Iran's leaders was doable. And as we saw, it absolutely was doable. But they assessed that the third and fourth parts of Netanyahu's pitch, which included the possibility of the Kurds mounting a ground invasion of Iran, were detached from reality. When Trump joined the meeting, Ratcliffe briefed him on the assessment. The CIA director used one word to describe the Israeli prime minister's regime change scenarios: farcical. At that point, Rubio cut in. In other words, it's BS, he said. So apparently Ratcliffe and Rubio were hesitant. They were skeptical of the claims being made by Netanyahu and the Israelis. I mean, they didn't fight or push back hard enough to ensure that we didn't get dragged into a stupid war like this, a disastrous war like this. But, they shared their skepticism. Ratcliffe then said that regime change could not be considered an achievable objective. General Dan Kane agreed, telling Trump, "Sir, this is, in my experience, standard operating procedure for the Israelis. They oversell, and their plans are not always well developed. They know they need us, and that's why they're hard selling." It's not just that they need us, right? They know that they have this half-baked plot that's unlikely to work. So why not send in the Americans? Have them pay for it, have their soldiers get slaughtered. By the way, that whole mission of saving that pilot, the one that Trump is celebrating today, I think it's all lies, okay? I think that our military was actually there to try to get the enriched uranium. I think that special operation went south. It was a complete and utter disaster, and our government doesn't want to take any ownership of it. I think that's what actually happened. Now, that's my speculation, but I have reason to believe it considering the aircraft that was involved in that whole situation. But I digress. Cenk, before I move on, I want to hear from you.
So the Israelis said that it would be easy, it would be low-level risk. They would not attack our Gulf allies. They wouldn't be able to close off the Strait of Hormuz, and that they would surrender to Trump relatively quickly and easily. Okay, so every time we ask, hey, what did we get in return for the $320 billion at a minimum that we have given Israel, let alone the $8 trillion we spent on the global war on Israel's neighbors? What do we get in return? Every time the answer is intelligence, amazing intelligence. No, their intelligence, it doesn't suck, guys. They have very good intelligence when they want it. They did the Hezbollah pager attack. They knew where the Hamas leaders were, the Hezbollah leaders, etc. Just coincidentally, when they need to have very bad intelligence on October 7th, they apparently, anyways, and when they're driving us into the Iraq war, when they're driving us into the Iran war, oh golly gee, our intelligence was all wrong. Oh, that's what we gave America to make them die for us? Oh, so you fight the war and not us? Why is he in our situation room? If he wants this war so bad, why doesn't he fight it?
Why is he not in
to do with us.
He should be arrested. He should be at The Hague. That's where he belongs. He's in the United States Situation Room with the most powerful people in our country.
So since
calling the shots. Sorry, Cenk, go ahead.
Since we know that their intelligence is not actually bad when they need it, right? It is indisputable that they lie to us almost every time. They lied to us in Iraq. They lied to us about Iran. And yet they're our great special ally? No, they view us as suckers.
Because we are.
Suckers that they could just take endless, literally hundreds of billions of dollars from. They could drive us in a war, have us die instead of them. Have us spend $8 trillion. In fact, we had to borrow the $8 trillion from China, and you, your children, your grandchildren all have